Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Lynn Nesbitt, and I'm chairing today's panel. Joining me via Zoom are Ms. Gail Anderson and Mr. Richard Whitbread. Our secretary today is Crystal Harland, and our assessor is Mr. Jamie Fougere. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 and 2 and 4 through 8 on our docket today. Ms. Harland, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
I will, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Jamie Fougere.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, thank you for standing. Would you please state your full name? Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
So before we begin, are there any preliminary issues that we need to deal with?
To my knowledge, we just have a single preliminary issue, and that is I have sent a document titled September 3rd, 2024 Recommendations to the Board of Revision email address. And it's for dispersal at this meeting with regards to recommendations for each item remaining on the docket.
Okay. Before we accept that evidence, the panel will need to go in camera and make a decision as to whether or not to accept it. Mr. Reimer, I'm assuming you have no objection to be.
In fact, my preference would be that the board make reference to it if they would.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just go for 2 minutes in camera and make our decision, and then we'll carry on. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. The panel went in camera to determine whether or not we'd accept late evidence submitted by the assessor. We have agreed that the late evidence will be considered. So Mr. Fougere, when you are ready, can you begin with item number 1, please?
Sure. So the first property on the docket is 1251 Portage Avenue. It's file number 24-1904. The roll number is 130-108-48000. And so the original assessed value for 2025 we had at 1,742,000. And you can see this property on page 2 of my brief. It is a McDonald's on Portage Avenue. You can see the aerial shot at the top and the street view picture on the bottom of my page 2. And then if you want to turn to the September 3rd, 2024 recommendations document, the first page here, it corresponds to the first property that we're looking at, 1251 Portage Avenue. And I've highlighted in orange the change that I've made. So it's to the rental rate, going from $38.20 to $35. And no other changes were made. And so the resulting value is $1,594,000. So we're recommending a reduction from $1,742,000 to $1,594,000.
Thank you, Mr. Fougere. And if I can just repeat that back to you, the only change you're making is to the rental rate. You've reduced your rental rate from $38.20 down to $35. That results in a new market value of $1,594,000.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Reimer, do you accept the recommendation?
We're in agreement with the value of $1,594,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions for the assessor?
My only question is the reduced rental rate. It was made in regard to, can you just give us some background as to why the rental rate was reduced?
Based on comparable market evidence of other fast food restaurants and, things like Tim Hortons, McDonald's, KFC, etc. Other property types. The 3820 we believed was a little bit on the high side.
Thank you very much. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions?
Just a clarification for me. So when you have the initial recommendation or offering, that's a model driven offering, and then the one with the orange marks on it, this is going to be your adjustments to the model, correct, Jamie?
Correct.
Thank you very
That's
much.
right.
No further questions.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So that concludes item number 1 on our agenda. Item 2, 857 Portage Avenue. Mr. Fougere, when you're ready, please.
So the second property on our docket is 857 Portage Avenue. The file number is 24-2122, and the roll number is 13030824000. And the original 2025 assessed value was $1,129,000. And you can see the property on the second page of my brief. So it's on the corner of Portage Avenue. It's a retail store with just a couple parking spots to the rear. And as mentioned, we do have a recommendation here. On page 3 of my brief, just to point out, there is a fairly recent sale, September 2019, and it's showing a value of $1,050,000. And you can see on the second page of my recommendations document, you can see the changes that I've made here. We've corrected the area for one of the units. You can see again, the left-hand side is the original assessment, and then on the right-hand side is our proposed 2025 recommendation. And again, here, what's highlighted in orange has been changed from the original assessment. And so the H&R block unit has a mezzanine that we've adjusted the rent, or excuse me, the area on. So it's gone from 1,150 square feet to 1,194 square feet. And then we've reduced the rent down to 2,190 for the main floor area of the H&R block unit. And so the resulting changes go from 1,123,000 to 1,114,000.
Thank you, Mr. Fougere. So the 1,114,000 is your new recommendation.
Correct.
It results from a correction. Is it a correction of the square footage for one
Right.
premise and a slight decrease in the rent of one premise? That correct? Okay, Mr. Reimer.
We can confirm we're in agreement with the value of 1,114,000.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the assessor on the recommendation?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions. So that concludes item number 2. Item 4 on our agenda, 946 Corridon Avenue. Mr. Fougere, whenever you are ready, please.
So 946 Corridon Avenue is the address. The file number is 24-2945. And the roll number is 12023089,600. And the original 2025 assessed value was 1,059,000. And you can see the property on the second page of my brief. So this is a converted, an older restaurant that's been converted and fitted with Starbucks tenancy. And I believe it was previously a Swiss Chalet, a different chain restaurant. But you can see if you want to turn to the third page of my recommendations document, you can see the changes that I've made. So there has been a correction to the square footage, as well as a change in the rental rate to better reflect the type of occupancy that was there, or that is there now, I should say. And we've also increased the capitalization rate from 5.9 to 6.75. And the resulting changes have gone from 1,059,000 to 953,000.
Thank you very much. So just repeating that back to you, the recommendation is to decrease to 953,000. That's the result of 3 factors. A correction to the square footage. It was a reduction to 2,400 square feet, an increase in rent to $29.17 to better reflect its current occupancy, and an increase in the cap rate to 6.75. Okay, Mr. Ryder.
We are in agreement with the proposed value of 953,000.
Thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions on the of the assessor about the recommendation?
Just in regards to the cap rate change, so the original cap rate of 5.9% was model generated.
Correct.
Okay, and then the recommended 6.75% cap rate that's after doing an analysis of the individual property and area?
Right. Yes, that was after looking at the bulk of the outside evidence and with discussions with Mr. Reimer and considering the age of the property and conversion that it's really recently undergone.
Thank you very much. That's
Thank
all my questions.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
So essentially you agreed with Mr. Reimer's evidence on the rent, then you've moved it to 2917, which was his evidence. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. And then I think I see the difference in the square foot. He had 2,400 square feet, which was in excess of yours by 642.
Right.
And so that will be a change that will go into play.
Correct. Going forward.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, and I did have a question on the square feet. Your model used 3,042 with the reduction to 2,400. So what was that extra 600 square feet or so that was in there?
I'm not sure what where that had come from. This had, like I mentioned, this was a restaurant, different restaurant previously. And my understanding is that it's been vacant for some time before the new tenancy. However, looking at the permit information submitted to the city, the 2,400 square feet looked accurate or appeared to be accurate, when I looked through the permits.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So that concludes item number 4 on our agenda. Item number 5, 775 Corridon Avenue. Mr. Fougere, whenever you're ready.
So the next property we're looking at is 775 Corridon Avenue. The file number is 24-2013. And the roll number is 12022485000. And the original 2025 assessed value is 682,000. And you can see the second page of my brief, you can see the property. On the top picture here, you can see the aerial photography. And then below that, you can see the street view picture. This is a converted house that has gone through a number of changes as different restaurant tenancies have come through. And then if you want to turn to page 4 of my recommendations document, again, we have the original assessment on the left-hand side and the proposed recommendation on the right-hand side. So we've reduced the rent on the main floor, which is the 976 square feet, from $26.47 down to $25, as well as on the second floor. The second premise that I have here is for the second floor. And we've gone from $20.25 down to $19. Then the last premise here is the basement, and we have not changed that rental amount. It's mostly used for storage and some staff areas down there. And then finally, we have changed the capitalization rate from 6.05 to 6.75.
Thank you very much. So if I can repeat that, your recommendation is to reduce to $578,000. And that recommendation is based on a reduction of rent to the main and second floor premises and also an increase in the cap rate to 6.75.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer.
We're in agreement with 578,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions about the recommendation?
I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you so much. That concludes item number 5. Item number 6 on our agenda is 81 Isabel Street. Mr. Fougere.
So 81 Isabel Street, the file number is 24-2105. The roll number is 1306-1257-000. And the original 2025 assessed value for this property was 288,000. And you can see the property on the second page of my brief. This is a restaurant on McDermott and Isabel. Faux number 1. You can see the street view on the bottom of my page 2. And then on the 5th page of my recommendations document, you can see the original assessment on the left-hand side, and then my proposed recommendation on the right-hand side. So in this case, I'm recommending an adjustment to the capitalization rate to go from 7.05 to 7.5. And that's a small reduction from 288,000 to 271,000.
Thank you very much. So the recommendation is to decrease to 271,000, and that reflects increase in the cap rate to 5.7%. Mr. Reimer.
I think it was 7.5.
Oh, 7.5%. You are right. That would have maybe been problematic.
We are in agreement with 271,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No, I have none, thank you.
And again, just to confirm, the cap rate is 7.5, not 5.7.
Right, right.
That would have been a bad one. Okay, that concludes item number 6. Item number 7 on our agenda is 1060 Ellis Avenue. So Mr. Fougere, whenever you're ready, please.
Yeah, so 1060 Ellis Avenue. The file number is 24-2103. The roll number is 13011941000. And the original 2025 value, assessed value is 594,000. So you can see the property on the second page of my brief. You can see the aerial photography at the top of the second page. And then you can see the property with the parking lot in front of it at the bottom of my page 2. And so this is like a cafe restaurant where they have some live music. So the parking is in the picture here. Just on the other side, you can sort of see it. There's a little bit of a patio area as well. That lot runs just on the other side of the street. I think it might be St. Matthew's. But if you want to turn to the second page of my recommendations document, you can see, again, the original assessment is on the left-hand side, and the proposed reduction is on the right-hand side. And so here we're just proposing a change to the rental rate that's applied to the basement. You can see with the pictures that there's no windows for egress or anything like that, and it's not an area I don't think that they can have customers down in. So I would suspect that it's mostly used for storage. And so that's the only change that I'm proposing. And the value goes from 594,000 to 561,000.
Thank you very much. Recommendation is to reduce to 561,000, and that's the result of a decrease in the rental rate in the basement premise.
Correct.
Mr. Reimer,
We're in agreement with 561,000.
thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions on the recommendation?
Just in regards to the rate of $1.80 applied to it, is that kind of the low end of what you would see in regards to a basement rental rate?
Right. Yeah. So, from my experience, if you were to see like a rented out basement that you know, a tenant could fully occupy and have it be similar to their main floor area, you might see a rate from between say $5 and $10 in a range of that kind of magnitude. Obviously, I'm not presenting evidence on basement comparables, but then in a situation like this where there's some utility to the basement and it really kind of assists in the main occupancy of the main floor, you know, could be they store their canned drinks down there or their potatoes. This is a restaurant, or have washrooms down there as well. Those sorts of uses add some value, but not particularly as a space that would be rented out separately, if that makes sense.
Okay. And do you have on file when the last time this property was inspected?
I don't know when this was last inspected. I did read through some of the notes at the time, and I did look up this property just through a Google search to see what this restaurant or this cafe was and what is going on there. And there are some pictures of the main floor of the building on their website, but I did not see the basement myself.
Okay.
I did reference before that I didn't believe that there would be able to be occupancy specifically in the basement, because based on the street view photography, there are no basement windows, and that's a requirement with zoning. So, and it is an older building as well. So, you know, there was a little bit of sort of deduction or deducing on my part that led us here, but I have not inspected the basement.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, do you have questions for the assessor?
Just one more of a clarification. Jamie, on this docket, you used, or on this property, you used 5% for vacancy and $7 for a shortfall. And one other property you did that. All the other properties are, I think what the standard is 4% and $9. What would cause you to change the two elements on this docket?
Right. So I believe that's a reflection of the property type. I'll just quickly reference here.
I had them all as restaurants, I believe.
Yeah, that is a good question. Just going to be a moment here. Yeah, they're all restaurants. Typically, if you see a difference in those parameters, it would mean a difference in the property type. Yep. It could potentially relate to the part of the city that they're in. or the size of the property. Because you're right, I am seeing. Oh, you know what it is? We have, so there's a property use code, and that's it's basically just a label. So it tells you, it helps us organize the properties within our department. And so we have all of these as restaurants. However, the one that you just noticed there, that with the 5% and the $7 for the shortfall, we actually have an income stream that's a retail store. So that's mismatched. So within a property type, so say you have a neighborhood shopping center, you could have a retail store, a restaurant, and a gas station, and you could have 3 different income streams. So the income stream is independent ultimately of the parcel use code. And in this case, we have the income stream as retail here, as a retail store. Whereas we have the label, which doesn't affect any of the parameters. We have the label as a restaurant.
Yeah, okay. I noticed that on the property on Portage Avenue as well, 857 Portage Avenue. It is retail, but it is a restaurant too, isn't it? So.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have access to those use codes, so that's fine.
Right.
Yeah, you satisfied my curiosity, Jamie.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions.
Thank you very much. That concludes item number 7. Item number 8 on our agenda is 141 McPhillips Street. So Mr. Fougere, whenever you're ready, please.
So the last one on the docket here is 141 McPhillips Street. The file number is 24-2217. The roll number is 1306207900. And the original assessed value for 2025 was $374,000. And you can see this property on the 2nd and 3rd page of my brief. See, it has a bit of a irregular shaped lot here. And then you can see on page 3 the street view of the restaurant. So it is an older restaurant as well. And then if you want to turn to my recommendations document on the last page, is 141 McPhillips Street. And the only change that I've made here is to the rental rate. We had a rental rate of $20.17, and we're proposing a rental rate of $17. And that's based on the location and the age of the restaurant. So the resulting changes or change takes the value from $374,000 to $314,000.
Thank you very much. So the recommendation is to reduce to $314,000, and that's based on a decrease in the rental rate per square foot to $17.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer.
We are in agreement with the proposed value of 314,000.
Thank you very much. Mr. Whitbread, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Just to clarify, based on a sale on September 22nd of 450, a value at 374 and now down to 313, you said, I think disregard that. It is not an arm's length sale, brother sold to brother. Is that correct?
Yes, it is not an arm's length sale. So we don't know necessarily how that value was determined, how the sale price was determined. And it's, yeah, between related parties.
So in this case, then you would rely on the model to provide a, obviously an approximate value here that you then adjusted.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that, Jamie.
Thank you.
No further questions?
Thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes item number 8 on our agenda. Thank you, Mr. Fougere, and thank you, Mr. Reimer. We know there was a lot of work behind the scenes to get to these numbers today, and we all appreciate that your effort to do that. So we have now heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
You
Thank
too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I will go and thank you very much. Sure, we'll see you next week. Maybe tomorrow afternoon.